In what may be the single best acting performance of Ana de Armas' career, the Netflix film Blonde unfortunately is so wrapped in the turmoil surrounding the film that she may never receive the Oscar she deserves for the role. Blonde is an ambitious film. It pushes boundaries throughout its 2 hour and 47-minute runtime. So much so it earned itself an NC-17 rating. That kind of rating is rare, which is going to intrigue people to check out the film. What likely gets this film an NC-17 rating is a sex scene later in the film involving John F. Kennedy. This is the second of 2 sexual assault scenes in the film. This one depicts oral sex graphically. For the backlash this film received before its release, these 2 scenes were honestly tame compared to scenes in other movies regarding the graphic nature of the visuals on screen. These are 2 scenes where Marilyn doesn't ever say no or try to leave, but begrudgingly does what is being put upon her. While she doesn't attempt to stop the first encounter and performs the second, it is clear she does not want either. The backlash, however, isn't necessarily over specifically those scenes. Most of the arguments from people against this film are based on the misrepresentation of Marilyn Monroe and who she was as a person. Specific events happening or not happening have been mostly secondary. I'm going to take a different angle on this. I'm someone who feels you can't truly judge a film unless you actually watch it. You can decide whether you're interested in a film, if a film is for you, etc., from a trailer or other information presented before a film's release. However, you cannot determine whether a movie is good or bad that you haven't seen, which is why I watched the film. People wanting other people to not watch this movie are not doing so because they think it's a bad movie. They haven't seen it. They're doing so because they don't like the representation of Marilyn Monroe. That's it. There are problems on both sides of this. For those against the film because they believe it misrepresents Marilyn Monroe, this film is fiction, not a biopic. It doesn't claim to be accurate to the actual events of Marilyn Monroe's life and doesn't try to be. The tagline for the movie says specifically that it's a fictional portrait of Marilyn Monroe and that it's a reimagining. This is not the first nor will it be the last film to take actual events or real people and make a movie that isn't accurate to those events or people. Based on a true story means exactly that. Other films such as Lone Survivor, The Blind Side, Argo, and many others are not as faithful to the actual events as people think. On the other side of the argument is this. Because this film is so well made, no matter what you think of the script, there are going to be a lot of people who watch this movie, and when they think of Marilyn Monroe going forward, they will have a difficult time not recalling this movie as fact. No matter the intention, part of Marilyn Monroe's legacy will be shaped by this film. Marilyn Monroe the person doesn't really matter to me. I never really cared about her, never really been a fan. I didn't praise her, nor did I demonize her. She's just a celebrity who lived over half a century ago. That's really it. However, I do understand people not wanting her to be remembered as something she wasn't. I've seen the quote from her about not wanting to be made to look like a joke. This is where I do lean in favor of people against the film. It reminds me of blaxploitation films. I felt that way while watching it, and I've also enjoyed some of those movies. Can a movie be both good and wrong at the same time? I think the disconnect is this. Director Andrew Dominik wrote fan fiction about Marilyn Monroe, but instead of it living as a story on some website only a few thousand people might read, he is a talented filmmaker and was able to have his fan fiction produced. Only a couple of days after this film's midweek release, this nearly 3-hour film is #1 on Netflix's US Top 10 chart. That being said, the film is being scored unfavorably on Rotten Tomatoes. While the scores are early on the part of the audience, it's unlikely the meter will move drastically. The film itself is very well made. Every aspect of technical filmmaking is on display and can contend during award season. The acting is superb. I'll get to Ana de Armas' performance later. The score is excellent. Songs that play stand out, and the music playing at the end before she takes her own life is haunting. The art direction, wardrobe, and cinematography are all fantastic in this film. Could the script have been better? Yes, but the script does fit the story the director was trying to tell. The father issues, the abortion angles, all of it was meant to fit the narrative of the writer-director. Marilyn says the word daddy an uncountable number of times, although someone probably has already counted it. We didn't need to be beaten over the head with the father issues, but in some cultures that's a perfectly normal pet name between lovers, so who am I to judge? Scenes like the abortion one were meant to be jarring. It's supposed to make you feel uneasy and uncomfortable. I wasn't thrilled with the visual choice, but I understood it. For everything said about this film, Ana de Armas was tremendous. Her presence, look, and acting were all incredible. If she won every award available, she would deserve them. One of my favorite moments of her performance was actually a subtle one. She was complaining about her life around women working for her who were far beneath her station. Although her complaints were valid, one of them reminded her of this, telling her that basically anyone would give anything to trade places with her. The little realization on Ana de Armas's face as Marilyn, when she contemplates what she's complaining about and who she's complaining to, is fantastic. All before she accepts the criticism and responds, "Oh, I do." For everything surrounding this film, I did enjoy it. My major complaint about the movie itself was the runtime. Normally, I'm not one to think movies should be shorter. I don't mind 3-hour movies. However, I felt the runtime with Blonde, and it could have been shorter. I know. Some of you feel they could have left the whole 2 hours and 47 minutes on the cutting room floor, and that would have solved the problem. The biggest problem with the film is, yes, it does hurt the legacy of Marilyn Monroe simply by existing, which is actually not fair to the film itself. Again, it should be the film's responsibility to inform its audience that this story is purely fictional, but at the same time, a film can't make people remember that. I do wonder how this film would have been received if it had not been about a real woman who lived. Had the main character of this movie been named Jane Smith, there'd have been no talk of legacy or representation of a character's true life counterpart, nor about events taking place or not taking place. The response probably would have been apathy. This film would have probably been ignored by the general public the way most movies that are produced for award season are. This is exactly why the film is about Marilyn Monroe. Regardless of your feelings about the misrepresentation of Marilyn Monroe, if you're a fan of film, this movie is worth seeing. Whether you like it or not will be your own subjective opinion. Did you watch Blonde? Let me know what you thought of the film in the comments below.